Welcome back to another episode of ABA Compare and Contrast, the series where I take characters from ABA and compare them to characters from Heaven's Arena. Today's episode isn't even a character at all. Today, we'll be looking over the game mechanics. I probably should have done this for the first episode, but starting off with Goku was more poetic, so... Now with that being said, let's begin. First, we'll go over the most basic form of combat, M1s. Both games feature a multiple hit M1 string. ABA with 5 total M1s, and Heaven's Arena with 4. Now, where the games start to differ is the final hit of their M1s. In ABA, you're offered 4 different variants of final M1s, all depending on whether you're in the air, on the ground, or holding space. These variants consist of the basic kickback, up fling, down slam, and drop kick. All of these will guard break if blocked. In Heaven's Arena, they treat this aspect differently. Instead of a final hit knocking back, they put this feature on the M2, or more commonly known as the right mouse button. There are 3 variants of M2s, those being kickback, up fling, and down slam, with the only one that guard breaks being kickback, as up fling does not guard break and down slam can only be used in an air M1 combo, which I'll get into shortly. Now, unlike ABA where you're forced to do a full M1 string to get the final hit, inside of Heaven's Arena, you can do an up fling or kickback whenever you feel like it, but keep in mind, you won't always get away with this scot-free. Now, let's talk about aerial M1s. Within ABA, you're given the ability to up tilt if you hold space while M1ing on the ground. This will take the opponent into the air, allowing you to combo them from above, while also applying more stun than the basic M1, giving you the chance to throw out a move to extend your combo and refresh your M1 string. To continue to attack them in the air, you must hold space in M1 after up tilting. While you're in the air, you're given the choice of 2 M1 finishers, which are drop kick and down slam. To initiate a drop kick, you must hold space and do your final M1. A small thing that drop kicks have is that if you hit the opponent to the wall, it'll damage them for 5 extra damage, so use that to your liking. To do a down slam, you must let go of space either on your final M1 or just before it. If you were to let go of space before your final M1, you're given a new M1 variant called down tilt. This M1 variant is probably the worst out of the bunch, as it doesn't have enough stun to combo, giving them the ability to block afterwards. Although it can be used for attempting to mix up the opponent, so keep that in mind. With all of that out of the way, let's move on to Heaven's Arena's aerial M1s. To start off an aerial combo, you must hit an opponent with an up fling first. To do so, you must hold E, then do an M2. To follow them up, you must press R to rush at them. Not much changes while you're in the air. The only one significance is that if you hold E and M2 in the air, you gain the ability of down slamming, which you'll need to land your ultimate. I'll get into those in a little bit. You also have the option to up fling them once more in the air by holding space and doing an M2, although there's not much use for this feature, apart from some moves. Now, that should be all for M1s. Let's move on to Awakenings and Ultimates. In ABA, majority of characters have their own unique awakenings, either giving them a new moveset entirely, or giving them stronger variants of their base moves. Sometimes their awakening could just be a one-shot. During the animation of the awakening, they'll be granted iframes until the animation is over. Awakenings will also heal the player back to full, with All Might being an exception to this. Most characters will get a passive upon awakening, like extra speed or an HP buff. These awakenings are designed to be strong, so be careful when someone awakens. Now, for Heaven's Arena. Instead of awakenings, characters will have ultimates, which are entirely unique for each character. Only exception being Giorno, who has an awakening instead of an ultimate. Although, I won't go too much into detail about him since it's nothing too special. Majority of ultimates have a ton of startup, so to confirm into your ultimate, you must down slam the opponent first. Now, that's all for ultimates and awakenings, I believe. I don't think there's any more mechanics to really talk about from ABA, so let's go over Heaven's Arena's extra mechanics. First, let's start off with Evasion. Evasion is a move which everyone has, where if you press C, it'll free you from M1s. although this can only happen if you're being M1'd on the ground. If you get M1'd in the air, there's not much you can do about it. A nice feature that's in the game is if you're playing 2s or 3s, and both of your teammates are dead, and it's a 2v1 or a 3v1, whenever you use Evasion, the cooldown will be halved, giving you a better chance of fighting them. Next off is Rush. I talked about this a little bit in the M1 section, so let's go into full detail. Rush has a few more uses aside from landing you an aerial combo. You're able to use Rush directly after landing a knockback move, allowing you to follow up for a combo, although I only suggest this if your opponent's Evasion is off cooldown, since they can just use Evasion and you lose your Rush in the process. Rush can also be used to chase your opponents if they're running away, although be careful as the opponent can block your Rush or even parry you. If two people use Rush at the same time on each other, this will end up in a collision, resulting in both of them being knocked back and being put at a stalemate. Now, this section isn't as big, but we'll talk more about parrying. To parry, first, your opponent must rush at you. The moment you see that they're rushing you, go for an upfling. After that, you can use your Rush for a free air combo. And don't worry, once you parry someone, your Rush will automatically be put off of cooldown. Let's talk about wall extending now. All you need to do is use a knockback move on your opponent and have them hit a wall. If you're close enough, you'll be able to dash in and M1 them off of it. This is really useful whenever you're comboing someone in the air. Now, keep in mind, you're not able to use your M2 to wall extend for obvious reasons. Now, I believe that should be all of the mechanics covered. I probably missed one or two, but nothing too important. With that out of the way, this is the part where I give my opinions on them. ABA's mechanics are more simple and easier to use, and with the addition of characters having awakenings, it keeps you more invested in the battle. Although a downside is due to the balancing in the game, you're more likely to get one-shot comboed no matter what. As for Heaven's Arena, the mechanics are more complex and add a lot to the game, especially the addition of Evasions, leading into the creation of some mix-up to get rid of your opponent's Evasion. And combos don't seem to deal as much damage compared to ABA, so not one character has a true one-shot combo, apart from landing an ultimate. In conclusion, I feel like the mechanics of Heaven's Arena are superior in a 1v1 sense. Now, in a 2s and 3s sense, I feel like ABA's mechanics are more suited for that. Keep in mind, this is my opinion, so no hate is thrown to anyone. Don't forget to leave your take of Heaven's Arena's mechanics and ABA's mechanics in the comment section below. If you like this series, make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll continue to make more. I'll see you. Peace.